of all, your test is on learning and memory. Remember the definition of learning. Learning is a relatively permanent change and the potential to behave which results from reinforced practice. That is the definition of learning. There might be a question in the test which has something similar, and you have to realize, oh, what's being defined is learning. And we said there are two major forms of learning: classical conditioning and operant conditioning. In classical conditioning, the response is elicited, is triggered by a stimulus. It's a form of respondent behavior. In operant conditioning, you are emitting a behavior in order to have access to a reinforcement, to a reward, or in order to avoid something unpleasant. Classical conditioning in your mind should be connected to two names. The first one is Pavlov. See, Pavlov is the one who discovered it. And the second one is Watson. Watson was the founder of behaviorism, the one who did the Albert experiment, where the little baby boy is conditioned to be afraid of a rat. In operant conditioning, again, two names you need to remember. One is Skinner. Skinner is the person who developed operant conditioning. But the other one is the name Thorndike. Thorndike was the person who came up with the law of effect, long before Skinner. The law of effect that says anything that has a pleasant consequence tends to be kept, anything that has an unpleasant consequence is expanded. In classical conditioning, you need to remember that the conditioned stimulus initially is neutral. It doesn't produce the response. And it is paired with the unconditioned stimulus, which is the stimulus that naturally triggered the reflex. The important thing is how much time between the CS and the UCS. If you wait a lot more than a couple of seconds, it's difficult to get. It takes much longer. So ideally, you want to have a second, or maybe 2 seconds, no more than that, between the CS and the UCS to have an effective procedure. If you get somebody to become conditioned because you have followed the CS, like the bell with the food and the dog salivates now, for to give you a specific example, if you have achieved this and now you ring the bell and the dog salivates, and you keep ringing the bell alone without giving food anymore, gradually the salivation becomes less and less. That's called extinction. But after a break or a rest period, if you ring the bell again, the response recovers spontaneously, but not to full strength. So each recovery is less, but you have to do several periods of extinction in order to get rid of the response completely. Now the Albert experiment demonstrates stimulus generalization, because when little Albert was presented with a white rat and then the loud noise occurred and he became afraid, or he was afraid of the loud noise, and then after a few presentations he's afraid of the rat. He now was afraid also of the white rabbit, the white teddy bear, the white coat, the beard, the white beard, anything that's white occurred. That's called generalization. He's generalized the responses to all kinds of similar stimuli. The opposite of generalization is called discrimination. You could train somebody to discriminate, to only react to one specific stimulus. Little Albert could have been trained to discriminate if you had presented little Albert with all of those stimuli, with the rabbit and the beard and the teddy bear and the little coat and the rat, but only the rat is followed with a loud noise. All of the other things are presented all the time. Then he gets used to the fact that all the other things are not scary. The only scary one is the rat. He's discriminating. Another thing you want to remember about classical conditioning is higher order conditioning. When you use the CS in the first experiment as if it were the unconditioned stimulus in the second experiment. Remember, if you have the dog that salivates to the bell, and now you present a light that's followed by the bell, the dog salivates. Eventually you present the light and the dog salivates to the light. That's second order conditioning. The light was never paired with food. Or in the example of the clown is giving the little boy a balloon, the balloon explodes, the child is afraid, now the child is afraid of clowns. The clown is driving an ice cream truck that makes a particular noise. So now the child sees the ice cream truck, fears it, and sees the clown and is afraid. So after a while, Just hearing that little bell of the truck makes them afraid. This conditioning of the second order, so that could occur. In operant conditioning, there are two important concepts. First, the basic principle. Any behavior that's reinforced will tend to increase in frequency. Any behavior that's not reinforced will be abandoned. So if you see anybody doing something over and over, you compare it to reinforcement or something. If you want to control the behavior, take the reinforcement away. The behavior will undergo extinction. The definition of reinforcement is important. Reinforcement is anything that increases the frequency of responding. Any reinforcement, whether it's positive or negative or any other kind of reinforcement, always increases, never decreases the frequency of a response.